Now, our host, Roald Dahl.
How are you? This is the control room of the CBS television studio, and we're just about to start a new show. Now, you may find that this particular play disturbs you just a tiny bit as it goes along. If it does, let me assure you that that's nothing to what it did to me when I wrote it. I thought it was perfectly beastly. The play is called William and Mary, and it is not for children. It is not for young lovers either, or for people who have stomach difficulties. It is more perhaps for wicked old women who relish a juicy plot where all sorts of nasty things happen which they can then wish upon their closest friends and their loving husbands. You see, it's way out.
Mrs. Pearl.
It's all right, Doctor. Please go on.
Well, as you've already seen, Mrs. Pearl, the news is not good. Your husband's condition turned out to be completely inoperable. So I'm afraid there's nothing we can do except to keep him here in the hospital. Try to make him as comfortable as we possibly can. Until the end comes. And that won't be long, I'm afraid. 1, 2 months, perhaps. But no more.
Does he know yet?
Well, he guessed as soon as he came to. It isn't easy to deceive a mind as brilliant as his. It's impossible.
How did he take it?
Very well. Very well indeed. He seemed completely resigned.
Dear William, I've only just heard.
Oh, shut up.
How do you feel?
Well, how do you think I feel? Now, don't fuss around. Would you please just go away and leave me alone?
Yes, dear, yes.
Sit down. No, not there, over there.
I'm sorry, dear.
Now then. I am finished.
Oh, no, dear.
Now, there's nothing more to be said. Not about me, at any rate, but there is you. Well, I suppose you'll get along without me somehow. It's all right, you get along. The house is paid for, there aren't any debts, there aren't any children. You'll thank me now for refusing to saddle you with a bunch of brats, I think, because, on your own, there'll be just about enough income from my savings to get along.
Darling, it isn't necessary to go over...
Don't interrupt, will you please? You may understand now why I have spent all 32 years of our married life trying to curb your extravagant tastes. I just hope that after I'm gone, you won't decide to go completely hog wild. Because your only salvation will be in thrift and moderation in all things.
Yes, dear, of course.
I suggest you begin immediately. I have no further use for the telephone at the house, and I just as well have it disconnected.
Dear, I will. I'll do that.
And cancel the daily paper. You never read it anyway.
Yes, dear.
Don't consume pastries.
No, dear, no.
Cocktails.
Oh, no.
And don't smoke.
No, I won't.
Don't fritter away your time playing cards.
No, of
And
course not.
whatever you do, do not introduce a television apparatus into our house.
No, I won't.
Mary,
Yes, dear.
do you by any chance have lipstick smeared all over your mouth?
But, dear, I only put the tiniest bit on.
Wipe it off.
Yes, dear.
Well, if you're going to kick your heels up in the air at this stage of the proceedings, I wonder just what you're going to be doing in 2 weeks.
But, dear, really, I did...
You bring me the book, the Bertrand Russell?
Oh, dear, I completely forgot it. I have so many things on my mind.
You know what you are. You are the vapid, acidine, fatuous, feeble-minded woman.
Yes, dear.
Just one thing. Just one thing I asked. Bring me to the hospital and what happened? I forgot. But you didn't forget the lipstick, did you? You didn't forget to smear lipstick all over your mouth. Yes.
Professor Pearl, this is Dr. Martin Landy.
Doctor who?
Landy, Landy. Perhaps I should explain that I'm the senior neurosurgeon here at the hospital.
Well, what do you want?
I'd like to come up and see you for a few minutes, if I may.
What for?
I can explain that when I see you, Professor. It's a very important matter.
Well, my wife is with me at the moment.
For how long will she be there?
She's leaving right away.
Good, I'll be there immediately.
And what do you want?
Who, dear?
Dr. Landy.
One of your doctors?
Martin Landy? Certainly not. He's a neurosurgeon.
Neurosurgeon?
A brain surgeon, woman. A brain surgeon. A very prominent brain surgeon, if my memory serves me.
There's nothing wrong with your brain, dear.
Quite right.
Then what does he want?
Bad news travels fast around here. He probably smells death.
Let me get straight to the point, Professor Pearl, if I may. And please forgive me if I appear a little blunt. In a few weeks from now, you're going to be dead, correct?
And just what business is that of yours?
Let me finish, please. There's no possible way of prolonging your life or of saving it, unless you will agree to put yourself entirely into my hands. You're a professor of philosophy. For years, you've been concerned with ideas and propositions. Would you care to consider a proposition now?
What kind of a proposition?
A very exciting one.
I have an idea you're going to suggest something very unpleasant and possibly dangerous. On the other hand, I don't suppose I have anything to lose by listening to you.
You have a great deal to gain, particularly after you're dead. This is a thing, Professor, that I've been working on quietly for some years. One or two others at the hospital here have been helping me, and we've completed a number of successful trials with laboratory animals. I'm at the stage now where I'm ready to have a go with a man. It's a big idea, and it may sound a bit far-fetched at first, but I know for certain that it can be made to work.
What is it?
Put in its very simplest terms, it's this. To keep a human brain alive and healthy after the human himself is dead. To keep it functioning perfectly in every way, thinking, remembering, reasoning, just as your brain is functioning at this moment. This is not a stunt. I'm not trying to perform a sensational experiment for my own amusement. Far from it. I'm concerned simply with saving and prolonging life. And the brain is life. The body isn't life. The body can't exist for 1 second without the brain. But the brain, in certain circumstances, can exist without the body. Now, consider for a moment your own brain, Professor. It's in perfect shape. It's crammed full of a lifetime of learning. It's just beginning to give out some first-rate, original ideas. Yet in a few weeks, it's going to be allowed to die, simply because your hopelessly inefficient body is going to stop functioning. The thing is preposterous.
Charlatan.
It's a tragedy. It shouldn't be tolerated. A surgeon will always amputate a diseased limb, won't he, to save a body? Very well then, why shouldn't I amputate a diseased body in order to save a brain?
You can stop right there, Doctor. I have no intention of allowing myself to be beheaded by you or anybody else. I prefer to bide my time and die in my own way.
But you will, you will. I wouldn't dream of touching you until after you were dead. How could I? That would be murder.
The whole thing sounds repulsive and utterly impracticable.
But it isn't. That's the extraordinary part of it. Look here.
No, Chris, I should be ashamed of myself for listening.
Let me explain something about the brain. Can I do that? When I speak of the brain, I mean, of course, those 3 outer casings which surround it. The dura, the arachnoid, and the pia, or the pia mater.
I know that.
Of course you do. Now, provided these 3 casings are left intact, the brain becomes a peculiarly self-supporting object. In fact, there is only one vital substance that it requires from the rest of the body in order to stay alive, and that is blood. Blood, as you know, is normally pumped up from the heart to the brain via the 4 main carotid arteries, 2 on each side, and returns to the heart via the jugular veins.
1 on each side.
Yes. Well, we have right here in this building a machine that can pump blood to the brain just as efficiently as any heart. Better. The correct temperature and pressure, the proper amount of oxygenation, everything. So there is no problem with blood, none whatsoever.
How comforting.
And if you're wondering about the cerebrospinal fluid, there's certainly no problem there either, because the brain manufactures that in its own ventricles.
Doctor, will you kindly spare me the lecture?
There you are, Professor. As long as we have the heart machine to keep the blood supply going, then the brain has no need whatsoever to be attached to the rest of the body. And if that body happens to be no good anymore, as yours is, then throw it away. Throw away your skull as well. I don't want your skull. The only thing I want is that clean, beautiful, healthy brain with all its vital powers of thought and memory still functioning perfectly. I can save your brain, Professor, if you let me, and I can keep it alive for years and years to come.
And leave me deaf, dumb, and blind as a bat. I can think of nothing more ridiculous.
I am going to leave you an eye. Yes, certainly. You see, the optic nerve is not really a nerve at all. It's part of the brain. A slim 2-inch long extension of the brain itself leading to the eye.
I know that.
As a matter of fact, I've already constructed a small plastic case to contain the eyeball instead of your socket. And when the brain is in the basin...
What?
Well, we have to keep it somewhere. It has to be submerged in liquid, in Ringer's solution.
I refuse to live in a basin.
Oh, don't worry about it, Professor. This one will have every modern convenience. Now, when the brain is in the basin, the eyeball, in its case, will float on the surface of the liquid.
Staring at the ceiling, no doubt.
Yes, I suppose it will. I'm afraid there wouldn't be any muscles there to move it around, but it might be sort of fun to lie there, a little quietly, comfortably, peering around at the world in your own little basin. Yes, might be sort of fun.
Hilarious. What about an ear?
No ear. No, that wouldn't be possible.
No, that wouldn't be possible. No ear, no mouth, no means of communication. No, thank you, Doctor.
Not so fast, Professor. It might surprise you to learn that you would, within certain narrow limits, be able to communicate with us quite intelligibly.
How?
By means of a highly sensitive oscillating electroencephalograph. They've been getting some extraordinary results on that.
I don't believe it.
Oh, just wait till I show you. Tomorrow I'll show you.
No smoking! I have never forbidden smoking in my presence. I certainly don't intend to begin now.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Now you listen to me.
Yes.
Do you seriously believe that when my brain is in that basin, it'll be able to function exactly as it does now?
I don't see why not. It's the same brain. It's alive. It's completely undamaged. In fact, because we won't have disturbed the 3 outer casings, it's completely untouched. The big difference, of course, would be that we would have severed all the nerves leading into it. And that means that your thinking would no longer be influenced by your senses. You'd be living in an extraordinarily pure and detached world. Nothing to irritate you anymore. No pains or hunger or thirst or fear. Not even any desires. Just your memories and your thoughts. It would be a tremendous experience, particularly for a professor of philosophy. Try to imagine, if you can, the degree of concentration you'd be able to achieve.
Doctor.
Yes, what?
I might let you do this thing to me.
Oh. I knew you would.
You knew, did you? You certainly didn't know why.
No. Why?
To irritate my wife. My wife is longing for me to die.
31 days later, Professor Pearl died. At least his body died. But my staff and I were standing by with the heart machine at the time. We simply went in at the neck and coupled the machine up with the carotid arteries and the jugular veins. And in precisely 2 minutes and 4 seconds, a supply of new blood was circulating through his brain. Later in the operating room, I began the longest operation I have ever performed. Slowly, with infinite patience, I went about the job of freeing the living brain from the dead body. I removed the skull. I cut and tied up innumerable small blood vessels. I cut all the nerves. And towards the end, I severed the spinal column and sewed up the opening in the dura. The whole procedure took me 21 hours and 40 minutes. Mrs. Pearl had, of course, been told about our plans beforehand. 2 days later, I telephoned her at home.
Come over here to the hospital.
Oh, what happened? How did it go?
Very successfully.
It did? I'll be right over, Doctor.
And it recovered consciousness yesterday afternoon. The electroencephalograph was able to tell us that quite positively. It was very exciting.
You say the eye is seeing?
Absolutely. We gave it the newspaper this morning.
Which newspaper?
One of the tabloids. The headlines are larger.
He hates the tabloids. Give him the Times.
Oh, very well, Mrs. Pearl. We'll give it the Times. We naturally want to do all we can to keep it happy.
Him, Doctor, not it.
Oh,
him.
Him, yes, of course. Excuse me. Well, here we are. Now, you mustn't be too surprised by what he looks like.
No, Doctor, I won't.
Well, it's bound to be a bit of a shock at first. I'm afraid he's not very prepossessing in his present state.
I didn't marry him for his looks, Doctor.
Now, just take your time, Mrs. Pearl. You stay right beside me here until you get used to everything. All right, Watson, you can leave us now. Now, he's in there. But he won't know you're in the room until you put your head directly over the eye. The eye is always open, but he can't move it, so the field of vision is somewhat limited. But of course he can't hear it, so we can talk all we want to. Are you feeling all right, Mrs. Pearl?
Yes, thank you, Doctor.
Good. Well, let's go closer, shall we? It's all right. He can't see you over here. There you are. That is Professor Pearl.
Are you sure he's conscious?
Look at the encephalogram.
The what?
The oscilloscope. It's giving an absolutely normal reading.
Normal reading of what?
Oh, of the electrical activity in your husband's brain, Mrs. Pearl. You see, a living brain is constantly throwing off electrical waves.
Yes?
Yes. Well, they're rather like radio waves. And this machine simply records them.
Yes?
Yes. You see these 6 electrodes attached directly to the brain. They carry the electrical impulses back to the encephalogram.
Oh, I see. And that little squiggly line is actually telling us what William is thinking about at this very moment.
Well, not quite, but it does record what he's feeling. It records pleasure, for example, very clearly. When he's pleased about something, the line looks like this. There's smooth waves.
And when he's cross?
The line becomes very sharp and jerky, like that. So, there's no doubt about it. He can communicate with us up to a point. Hi, Professor Pearl. You see? He's pleased to see me. Oh, it's very intriguing.
Yes, it certainly is.
I have a surprise for you, Professor. Now, Pearl.
Hello, dear. It's me, Mary. How are you? Are you all right, William? Are you sure he sees me?
Oh, positive.
He seems so quiet.
Naturally, he's quiet.
Not like him at all. Perhaps he's wondering what happened.
No. He knows exactly where he is and why he's in there.
You mean he knows he's in this tank?
Yes, of course.
Isn't that wonderful? Seems so quiet and helpless, lying there. Just like the little baby. He's just like a little baby. There, my darling. From now on, Mary's going to look after you. And you've nothing to worry about in the whole wide world. When can I take him back?
I beg your pardon?
I say, when can I take him back? Back to my own house.
You're joking.
Why should I joke?
Oh, well, he can't possibly be moved, Mrs. Pearl.
I don't see why not.
Oh, but this is an experiment, Mrs. Pearl.
But he's my husband, Dr. Landy.
Well...
He is my husband.
That's rather a tricky point. You're a widow now, Mrs. Pearl.
I'm not sure that I am.
Oh, yes. I think you must resign yourself to that.
No. I want him back.
I think we better go now, Mrs. Pearl.
Yes, all right. We can discuss it later. I just want to say goodbye to you. Mary's leaving now, darling. What's wrong? Why are you so cross? Oh, is it my little cigarette that's annoying you? Is that the trouble? I expect it is. But it's no good being cross, my pet. Not anymore. Because from now on, you're going to do just exactly as Mary tells you. You understand? You're a naughty boy. You mustn't be a naughty boy. Naughty boys are very liable to be quite severely punished nowadays.
No, Mrs. Pearl.
I'll be back.
Watson, come in here, please. Mrs. Pearl,
Isn't
please.
he sweet? Isn't he a little dear?
Watson, come in here. I need you. Mrs. Pearl.
I just can't wait to get him home.
I wonder if we ought to put a goldfish in that tank with Professor Pearl to keep him company. Anyway, I believe that the kind of therapy you've just witnessed will one day be available to all of us. Then we can have wives and husbands living snugly together side by side in the same basin, maybe for hundreds of years at a stretch. Won't that be nice? And she'll be able to keep her eye upon him every moment of the day and night. If you're interested, why don't you consult your doctor? We'll have another one for you next week at the same time. Good night, and sleep well.
Rod Serling. Next on most of these stations, a toy telephone becomes an object of terror in the Twilight Zone.
Makeup created by Dick Smith. Hairstyles by Ernest Adler. This program was pre-recorded. This is Joe Gibbons speaking.